Welcome back. South Africans from all walks of life continue to react to the 2022 matric results. Now, while the class of 2022 is being praised for its pass rate, AfriForum is worried about the high dropout rate.
Well, the organization's Deputy CEO Alana Bailey joins us now live to talk more about these results as well as their concerns. Alana, thank you so much for your time this morning. Let's talk a little bit about this. I think that when the Minister of Basic Education was sharing the results, South Africa in general was elated at this 80% plus pass rate, right? But at the back of this, obviously, we cannot avoid how many young people started in grade 1 and how many of them actually went through the system to actually write the matric, and how many of them actually dropped out along the way, including during their matric year. Let's express a little bit of those concerns that have been shared by AfriForum.
We are very concerned about that because this is a trend that we've been watching for more than a decade now, and we see that the numbers still remain concerning. We hear what the DG of Education is saying, that we should rather be concerned about the number of students who fail or who repeat years. But I think the problem is that even if they fail, if they repeat or if they drop out, the chance that they will eventually pass matric is very low. And as we see already with a matriculation certificate, it's very hard to find employment in South Africa. So if you do not even have a matriculation certificate, your chance of getting employed is even slimmer. And I think the high dropout rate is one of the main reasons why we see this unacceptably high unemployment rate of 59.6% in South Africa.
Alana, we as broadcasters could, bandy about a couple of reasons why it is we are seeing these rates. But what, as AfriForum, are you seeing as some of the main reasons why we are getting? I'm just going to throw out numbers here: 600,000 grade 1 starting, only for that particular generation. When they get to matric, they are down to about, 200,000.
Exactly. It's almost a third that disappear in every class group or every year group. And as I said, that's a trend that's been going on for more than a decade now, that we've been watching, probably much more longer than that. And I think the DG pointed to one of the main reasons when he said that you can see that trend of dropout starts at about grade 5 level. In grade 4, a lot of children who have had mother language education suddenly have to switch to English only as language of tuition. And I think that's one of the main reasons. At that stage, that transition is very hard for a lot of children to take. Sometimes even the teachers are not equipped to prepare the students for this change. And then by the time that they get to grade 5, they repeat or they drop out. They get frustrated because they do not understand very difficult concepts, because they have to learn it by heart or by head, but they do not really internalize it. They do not really understand these concepts, like, for example, in maths and sciences. So if we can just get to a point where we have mother language education for a longer time, that already will make a huge difference. But there are many other aspects as well, such as the fact that if a child is struggling, very often there are not the necessary tools to help that child to identify why he or she is struggling and to equip them to cope better with the kind of education that they get. And then also, I think we focus in South Africa so much on university education and academic careers that we forget that for many children, a viable and a very profitable alternative would be to learn other skills.
Yeah. Alana, as you're speaking about this, just going through the statistics for this year, particularly alone, if you have to look at how many people started and how many young people started in grade 1 in 2011, I think it was about 1.2 million young people started in grade 1. How many of them completed matric? That was about 776,000 or so. That means that a good 400,000 or more are lost in the system, right? How do we get them back? And I say this with the undertaking that South Africa is dealing with a high crime rate. South Africa is dealing with the despondent youth, largely, as well as a high unemployment rate where young people are concerned. By losing this 400-odd or 400,000-odd young people, can we get them back? How do we get them back? And what are the consequences of us never getting them back into the system?
I think the consequences can be dire because when you have such a high unemployment rate, especially amongst youth, usually you see in countries that in the long run you sit with a lot of social unrest. So we have to find a way of getting them back into the system. And I don't think options like the TVET colleges are really providing that safety net that these children need. So I think we have to look more at adult education, adult meaning people from the age of 18 and up, and even at improving the quality of learning and the standard of learning of people who have matric, because in many cases they have passed, but they are really not employable. So we have to find ways of making the majority of the South African youth employable, and also to equip them with skills to be entrepreneurs. I think in the past we also focused so much on finding employment and not enough on creating employment for yourself. And South Africans are very resilient and very creative people. I think there are many solutions, but I think also that many young people lose hope and simply start staying at home because they get disappointed so often. And we have to find a way of giving them hope again.
Just before we let you go, Alana, many a conversation where the education of the young is concerned are not being had. And one of the conversations that the education department, I feel at least, keep running away from is the rape of young children. Teenage pregnancy is one of the main reasons. I mean, I know you've spoken about how, that language barrier where we need to continue the teaching of children in their home language needs to continue. But then there is also the problem of kids at 14, 15, 16, 17 are falling pregnant. They're being raped by, either, people from outside or even teachers themselves. That conversation is not being had. And that is one of the major factors, disturbing factors, of why kids do not get to matric or even finish matric when they are there. How is that to be dealt with?
Yes, on the one hand, the faith organizations have a huge role to play in simply getting people to live more moral lives again. But on the other hand, we need to see that when a child is raped, that they are taken seriously and that the perpetrator is prosecuted. At our private prosecution division at AfriForum, we very often get parents who come to us with stories of their children being raped by people in the community or by teachers even, and then telling us, but we've gone to the police, we've tried to make a case, but this person is still teaching children. It's horrible to think of that. And I mean, in the media, we've seen many stories similar to this. So children have to be taken seriously and there have to be consequences for the people who do this. But our prosecution system in South Africa, the legal system, is really very often failing them. And that's really terribly sad, because not only is the child then in that predicament, but the baby they have will face a similar future if we do not change something in the system.